Okay, so the main focus of the latest state of the game was the NPCs, their behaviours and things like that, but a lot of people have been talking about RNG, loot problems and build diversity within the game. They haven't just left it and shrugged it all off and said we'll work on that at a different time. I managed to find a Reddit post that actually talks about it and how they do want to implement things into the game that are going to make your builds more diverse and not just rely purely on DPS. But they're not Thanos, they can't just snap their fingers and make it all work in an instant. They have a lot of different programming they have to do. I spoke about it in the NPC behavior video. Each node, like each command for an NPC's behavior is built up around like 30,000 different nodes they have to work on. And if any of you have not even necessarily experience, but if you know a little bit about programming, it's not an easy thing. I don't have a clue about it pretty much at all. I know there's different programming languages and things like that, but the only thing I know is it takes a hell of a lot of work. You've got to be really smart to be able to develop a game. It's just that simple. There's nothing else to it. But what they've spoke about is... This comes directly from Chris Gansler, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. He is one of the communication developers, I think he works on comms for The Division 2. And he said on this Reddit post, like this is what he said in a thread regarding state of the game. While we don't have answers to all of these topics yet, please know that the dev team is talking about all of these, as well as the inventory, loot, recalibration and crafting. And with that I mean specifically to look for improvements and your feedback on how things could be improved. We will have more information hopefully next week about what things could change and what we're looking at. Thanks for your patience and the continued feedback, not only on the mentioned topics. We don't want to shy away to talk about these topics. The reality is just that we don't have solutions for all of them yet. Once we're certain that some fixes are coming and we think it will address the community's concerns, we'll happily talk about them on State of the Game. That being said, we also think there's some different formats that we could stream to address certain topics or talk more often with you. With the resources we currently have, it's not something we can do soon, but it's absolutely something I'd like to kick off later this year. Totally understood, with unlimited resources we'd probably love to do that. Realistically, there's a lot of different conversations to be had before we can communicate on a feature or new content. On top of it, we're constantly working on the games to priority shift. For example, the TU3 was meant to go out in April, but due to issues with the patch and us wanting to put in an extra polish, we delayed it. Telling you guys this and giving you a reason is fine, but if there are 10 things on that theoretical list and they constantly change, that's an issue. Not only because it might be frustrating for you, but we also need to keep track where we communicated on this. We need to fix the timeline, follow up later on, etc. We think we can get better and give you updates earlier, but we'll never be able to answer all questions and concerns immediately. I personally also dislike to comment on literally everything. We're looking into it because it just feels like I'm copy-pasting that message instead of actually reading your feedback. The changes to skills, as well as the introduction of auxiliary skill battery with TU3, was a first step towards that. We understand that it's not what some players want to see, as they'd like more drastic changes. We will continue to improve things, and TU4 will have some improvements to skills already, but we also want to let you know what our longer term plans for the above mentioned topics are. So build diversity, like at the moment if you look for builds on YouTube, 99.9% of them are based around DPS. DPS being damage per second is how much damage your gun outputs. And there's always a difference in builds. Like you go and watch someone that's on PC, they've made this build, it's got 150% headshot damage. You cannot really build towards that on console because they're using mouse and keyboard. It's a lot easier to aim. So if you go and make that build on console, you're having to use 2 thumbsticks. And it makes it a lot harder to aim for the head, like your stability might not be there in the build, and it's just going to be a difficult time. So the devs are going to be working on making different builds viable. Personally, I want to see a tanky build that can output some decent damage at the same time, and I want to see skills used more often, because I've seen a crazy skill build. I've seen someone go through District, Uni and Arena dealing 74 million skill damage. Their cooldowns are ridiculous. Their damage output, like with the Cluster Seeker mine, it's got like 200,000 damage each one and it's on a 10-second cooldown. That is a hell of a lot of damage. The only problem with the build is that you have to be behind cover a lot of the time because there's no survivability. There's only a tiny bit of weapon damage, so you're 100% relying on your skills. But things like that are cool. It mixes up the game. It stops everyone focusing on getting the same stat rolls. And that's what the devs are going to be working on. They're going to try and change the RNG, the loot problems, and also get some more diverse builds coming into the game. And that's going to do it for the video, but I'm going to leave it with one question. If you could have any build in the entire game, so you could have your build based around one thing, what would it be and why? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.